excited. We have Jeremy here from the new Mutiny and possibly maybe an appearance from some of his bandmates later on in the show. Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going?
So excited to have you in the studio virtually today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your band and what you do?
Well, my name's Jeremy. I play guitar in the new Mutiny. We are a original rock band based out of Norfolk, Virginia. Yeah, that's the gist of it. Yeah, we've been together in this formation for probably about we just got a new bass player this summer, so it's all still kind of fresh, but the kind of core group of guys have been together for maybe about 4 years. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm finding it's like more and more rare to find bands other than, the ones that we know and love already that have been around forever that have like a lot of the same people for more than like a year or two at a time. Unfortunately, with the way the industry is nowadays, it makes it harder and harder for us musicians to do this long term. So it's like we've got high turnover and people just in and out of bands nowadays, which kind of makes it hard to keep going. So yay, you guys for being around for 4 years.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So how did you guys end up starting the band? Like who's like the criminal mastermind?
I guess that would be me. I'd be the guilty mastermind behind it. I moved to the area about 10 years ago, and by chance through a Craigslist, I was buying a piece of gear off somebody and got introduced to the drummer Mikey and another bass player at the time, Doug. This guy I bought a speaker cabinet off of something, was like, hey, there's these guys. He's like, what do you play? I was like, guitar, and started talking about music. And he's like, I know these guys out, that jam, they kind of sound like Primus and stuff like that. I was like, really? Okay, so that's cool. And didn't really think much of it. And then when I moved here, I didn't really bring any gear with me or anything. And kind of, Craigslisted myself into like a guitar rig, and subsequently it was like, well, I guess I need to find some guys to start jamming with, and linked up with Mikey, the drummer, and there's a gentleman by the name of Doug who was playing bass for us at the time, and we just kind of started jamming on stuff, and then subsequently went through trying to find a singer and yada yada yada. Here we've had multiple different members, and but we're finally at the point where we've got the core group of guys, and everybody's on the same page from a musical standpoint, and kind of what we're doing. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Nice. Awesome. So who primarily writes the music? Is it you? Is it like a collaborative, or how do you guys normally do it?
It's a very collaborative process. Normally, I'll kind of bring riffs or ideas or skeletons to the guys, and we'll start kicking them around, start hashing them out, and everybody kind of, puts their seasoning into the songwriting process, and we kind of leave the lyrical content up to our singer Jason. But it's definitely a group effort when it comes to writing the music. But yeah.
Nice. So do you guys write songs like based on like what inspires your music? Is it, just, real life, or, every band kind of has their thing. Some pull from real life, some have a theme, like, you had Ailstorm, they write like pirate metal. So what kind of inspires you guys, like your lyrics and your song content and stuff?
Song content, I mean, for riffs and things like that, like I said, I don't really write any of the lyrics. For riffs and just kind of ideas, it's, just hearing different sounds and hearing, kind of, obviously feeling comes into a big play there, and just kind of get ideas that kind of spark, and trying to look at songwriting, as from start to finish. And trying to write something that has movement the entire way through it. really trying to kind of come up with a song that flows from start to finish. And, if you're trying to write heavier stuff, trying to make people's heads, bob the entire time that you're playing, I think that's kind of the goal. So, from a lyrical standpoint, at least this last album and pretty much everything Jason's ever written in this project, and I kind of think in most of his projects, it's all very personal. It's all very, very real life, situations that, he's been in or feelings that he's had and kind of times in his life that, have resonated with him, and it's all kind of ammo that he kind of stockpiles away, and then when the song presents itself, he lends the lyrics to it, and there we go. So it's all very real. It's all very, I guess emotional driven. I don't want to say emo, but it's all real life stuff. I mean, we're all real guys with families and jobs and all the other BS that people have to deal with. So that definitely seeps into our music, and it's something that I think people that hear it can have can relate to it in some capacity. Whatever it may be. It may not be straight on the nose, or it might be straight on the nose. Whatever the subject matter is, it just kind of really depends. And it's all comes from a very real place. I feel like we're not out here singing about cruising around and drugs and alcohol, what I mean, like stuff like like a party band. We're not like some party metal band. There's nothing wrong with that. Or like you were saying about pirate metal, I've got some friends that play in a pirate metal band. But no, he has a very good talent for being able to take his own personal experiences and really kind of express them through his vocals and matching them to kind of the movement of a song. So that's kind of how it all stems for us.
Awesome. Yeah. I love music that has meaning, like you said, party music and whatever. I know, like, I'm a big fan of Ailstorm because they write songs about pizza, and I'm obsessed with pizza. I
All
can't
right.
write songs about pizza. I probably could, but it's just not my thing.
I-
But yeah, I love music that just has a message to it that's relatable. I think that we as musicians, that's kind of what inspired us to do what we do in the first place. Is usually music touches you on a level that nothing else really does. It reaches the soul, and through life experience, it's always kind of there in the background for us, as at least for me as a musician, to express the things that sometimes they say, like, music says what words can't.
Mhm.
And so you have those songs where the music and the lyrics just really hit those, like, and then you can also talk about things that maybe aren't necessarily cool to talk about mainstream. You've got a lot of bands now that are really bringing some focus on, like, mental illness and suicide awareness, and all these different topics that a lot of people don't want to talk about, domestic violence, and it's cool because you can put it into a song and
Mhm.
really tell these, like, really difficult stories that people don't want to hear about. Everybody wants to be happy and go about
Right.
our lives, and it's like music with a message. Just I don't know, it just really gets me every time. You get those songs that give you, like, chills, or they make you cry.
Yeah. I mean, it's all emotion, right? And I
Yeah.
think you know y- y- when you're coming from a place of authenticity, and you're coming from a place of experience, I think that translates into music. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love listening to stuff that is maybe like a fantasy world, or it's like kind of taking a different approach to maybe not being things that have happened to you personally in your life, but the storytelling aspect of it, where you're kind of creating this story, and using your lyrical content, or what you're saying to kind of tell that story. And that is awesome too. There's I love bands that do that, and I can get into that, and we have yet to kind of really dive into some of that. I think that's something that we kind of kicked around the ideas of kind of concepts, and trying to come up with some concept albums, things like that, and concept songs. And for us, and I think, one thing that's really kind of been driven home, and like you had mentioned about, bands really kind of bringing suicide awareness, mental health to the forefront, and really kind of starting to talk about issues that they might not have talked about. I think I think if anything that was good that came out of the pandemic was, that I think, it kind of, people were trapped inside for so long, and they really, started mental health be kind of became something that was, hey, this should be a part of your, your process, and making sure that yourself and your friends and your family and the people you care about, like if they're in a bad spot, check in on them, and get people the help that they need, if they need to talk to somebody, if they're down, whatever it is. And it's funny because we just released a song on Friday called Suicide Eater, and that is, as far as our album that is being released goes, I mean, that's kind of the one that draws it all back to the theme of the album. And it's a song, I mean, we did an interview about it last week, and it's really a song that is about eating those feelings. It's about feeling depressed and wanting to kill yourself, and having the strength to kind of eat those feelings and get past it, and working that stuff out. And it ends on kind of as Jason said in the last interview we did, it ends on a high note, and it kind of ends with hope at the end of the song. So I feel like the pandemic, if anything, has brought a lot of that out and kind of really focused people are having more of a focus on mental health. And I think us as musicians and bands that are creating their own material and original material, we were all affected by that as well. And there was a lot of us that, had a mental health check, like really we're 2 years into this or a year and a half into this, and we can't play shows, and we can't see our friends, and our family, our family members are dying, or our friends are dying, and everyone's scared. No one knows what's going on. This level of fear mongering is all about it. And it became this situation where I think people looked inward and were like, you know what, we really need to check our mental health and the mental health of our friends and family and the people that we care about. And you're starting to see that come out now as bands are releasing new music. And it's like, yeah, this album's, this is COVID. It's really kind of was about, we wrote it during COVID, and now it focuses on mental health or this, that. And it's like, I've heard a lot of that out lately, and it's cool because it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. And, I posted our video that our good friends and Spruce Films did for us, which was kind of like a spin-off on Groundhog's Day, and kind of this kid was trying, it was a, second part in a trilogy of videos that we're doing with those guys. And, it got flagged on Facebook. I don't know if it was because there's a, curse word within like the first 20 seconds, or, the lyrical content and the name suicide. So it got flagged, and, which is fine. But I feel like it's a conversation that, we have to have, and people need to, there shouldn't be a stigma around it, right? Like there shouldn't be, you need to do what you got to do, and you got to get through what you got to get through. Everybody's got BS they have to deal with, and but it's, if you need to lean on people, lean on them. And if you need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody. There's no shame in any of that. There's no shame in talking about it and trying to, knock down some of that stigma around, the mental health aspect of people, because I think everybody really had a big check during and after COVID, where it was like, okay, man, we got through it, but like, how are you feeling? You doing all right? Like, yeah, I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
Those type of conversations need to be had. And it's great to see bands that took the time to obviously create new music when that was all that we could do, but maybe kind of take a serious inward look and see some of the issues and see some of the problems that we have in a society, and really try to use their art to be vocal about that and draw attention to it.
Exactly. And like you said, there was such a, I feel like, especially before COVID, I don't know if maybe, COVID helped. Hopefully that's like a positive takeaway that came from the pandemic is, depression, anxiety, suicidal, tendencies, all those things were very much stigmatized. It's like people kind of come at you from like a place of judgment if you did try and talk about it, or or bring up the subject in some way. But it seems like you said after COVID and the pandemic, everybody kind of got this reality check because it's like, hey, I'm normally a positive person. I don't struggle with depression.
Right.
But when I'm stuck in home all day and I'm this like social person, I'm the front man of a band. I do late nights with Kraevin is actually what I started to keep myself
Mm.
plugged into something, right? Because I felt at home, disconnected. You can't play shows, you can't go out to venues, you can't do anything. And then I was stuck at home. So then here, late nights with Kraevin is what, I did to kind of reach out. Hey, I got friends who are in Jersey. I got friends who are in Tennessee. I got friends in LA. Let's just hop on Instagram live and chat about life, to check in with each other, have some fun, engage with our fans and just make sure like everybody's okay through all this and kind of make it, because like what are you going to do? You can't go hang out in each other's house and you can't go on tour together. So and I think now I at least hopefully people are experiencing less of a stigma and more focus on hey, we all go through shit sometimes and it's okay to reach out for help and there's no judgment. you know, we're all people, we all have our struggles. And that's the point. Even though, we have our things going on day to day, is we're still this community, right? We're still a part of this world. And the only way we get through life is together.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that whole the 2 years that COVID happened would take the most positive person and make them depressed.
oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and the people that were already on the edge. I mean, that was a break point for a lot of people. I mean, you couldn't go out and interact with people, and and if you did, you couldn't see their faces, and nobody looked in the eye, and it was just, everybody was, hey, stay away from me, man. Like
Yeah. It's like everybody looks like this.
yeah, and it became this kind of, hermit almost, and confined in your own house, and now that thank God is over, and we're back to normal operating procedures for most everybody. It's good to get out and interact with people and meet people you never talk to, and meet new people and go to a random show that you would never go to, or just get out and see live music, or just go to the park, and I mean, like that type of stuff, and really kind of, I think it drove home the fact that, like, hey man, this could be really bad,
Yeah.
really. And you got to kind of live in the moment and seize the day, and don't take for granted what you have, and really kind of try to maximize the time that you're here, because we're all going to have to pay that piper at some point. So it's just, you're not here for a good time, you're not here for a long time, hopefully you're here for a good time. So
Exactly. And it was cool. I got to go to, one thing. I love Rock Rage Radio so much, and they sent me to do some festivals for them this past summer, and it was so incredible. First of all, to be at a festival again,
mhm.
after everything. And I was at Blue Ridge
No,
uh,
nice.
Rock Festival, and we would take kind of shifts, we kind of make, because all of us Rock Ridge people, they're like watching the tent, so you can't go see every single band. So we'd be like, okay, who do we want to see live? Who haven't we seen live? And
Right.
everything. Who do we have interviews set up with? And so we would kind of do like our itinerary every morning. And I told them, I was like, I don't care what y'all do. I got to see Seven Dust. I don't care if I've seen them 10 times. I don't care if I've seen them 50 times. Like, I got to be in the pit. I got to be in seven. I got to be right there
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
time. And so we were going over the schedule, and I was, front and center during Seven Dusts. And I think they played on Saturday. And on Saturday, Blue Ridge released the numbers. There were 150,000 people there, I think they said,
Right.
on Saturday. It was insane. And the lead singer from Seven Dust stands up there and he just looked out on the crowd and he started like, he got tears in his eyes.
Right.
And he just like, between songs, he's just like, I got to take a moment. He's
Mhm.
like, I'm so overwhelmed because a year ago we couldn't leave our house. We
Right.
couldn't be around people. He's like, and to be able to be up here and see all of you, no masks on, having a good time, moshing and stuff. It's like, when you're back a year ago, you forget what that's like, and you don't even know if that's a possibility anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And then to be back up there on stage and just see all those people and everybody just like crowd surfing and getting crazy and spitting beer on each other and
Yeah.
everything else that goes on. He was just like, he's like, I'm sorry, I just need a moment, and just, give yourselves applause and just thank,
Yeah.
the universe that we're here, kind of thing. And it
Yeah.
was a really, really neat moment, because it really was kind of a reality. Like, wow, a lot of us probably felt like, we're never going to leave home again. We're never going to be on stage again. We're never going to be around like more than 10 people again.
It was there it got kind of weird for a while, man.
Yeah. And
Weird time to be alive, for
and
sure.
I was fortunate because, in Texas, I know we got a lot of shit for it, but our governor really fought for the businesses and fought for the artists and fought for, yes, let's take all the precautions, but let's go back to life.
Mhm.
We can't do this long term. This isn't a solution. Businesses are going under. Our live music scene is dying. Like, venues are closing. This is not good. And, Texas got shit on for it because we opened sooner than everybody else. And, but even with that, there was still we're still limited. Like artists, we couldn't play shows. Like they let the restaurants open, but they wouldn't let the venues open. And so we were doing kind of like we're trying to do like outdoor things and trying to work around it and keep
Yeah.
everybody safe. But we recorded in California, and their lockdown I think was probably one of the longest, and it was insane. Like, we'd be here in Texas and yeah, there's precautions, but there were certain restaurants, if the building was big enough, you could make a reservation and you could go in and eat dinner,
Right.
and you could sit and you could eat, outside on the patio, or, you could do things like that. And we went to California and literally you're lucky if you can get takeout.
Right.
And so we're literally going into the studio and, we're all masked up in the studio the entire time, trying to be respectful and keep our distance, and that, from, the mixing engineer, Keith Armstrong and everything. And then as soon as we're done in the studio, 7, 8 o'clock at night, it's like, okay, one of us goes and picks up food. One
Mhm.
person goes and gets alcohol. The other one hits up a dispensary. And then we meet back at the Airbnb and we're just like having our own little party.
Yeah.
And it was terrible because normally when we go out to LA, it's kind of like a family reunion because, a lot of bands are based there, a lot of artists are based there, and, it's like a revolving door. When we're in the studio, we have friends that show up and be like, "Oh, hey, we'll go to lunch with, the drummer of this band, and we'll go to dinner with like the guitarist from this band." And then after we play, it's like, okay, everybody come over. And it's like we went to LA and it's like we didn't get to see anybody, like you can't. It's just you go and you record and then you sit in Airbnb with each other. And I'm like, I love my band, guys, but I see you all the time.
Yeah. It was a weird situation for a lot of people. And yeah, interesting, a lot weird, very weird. I don't know. I'm glad we're through it, and hopefully we never have to go through it again, because I don't know what happens if we have to. So
Yes. So hopefully the powers that be, no more crazy super viruses, depending
yeah,
on what your views are.
yeah.
I swear. I think somebody's like testing things in a lab, but that's just me.
Mhm.
Oh, or who knows? Maybe it's the universe, trying to like course correct certain things. Who knows
Maybe.
where these things come from? But thankfully, we are still here. We are still making music, and the new Mutiny survived. And you guys have an incredible new EP that's out. I was excited when you guys sent it to me. I listened to it all the time. So I know you said you just released the new song. What's your plans now for 2023? You got some tours planned, you got shows planned, what's going on?
Um. So yeah, we have released that was the third song off the album that has been released so far. We have 3 more to go, and as part of our rollout, we will be releasing more material probably around Easter, and then I would say probably like in June-ish. And then we'll release a final song. But we're in the process of writing the next album right now. We've got a couple songs in, and we're just demoing, we're demoing material now, and we're looking to get back in the studio here probably, I'd say, within the next like 2 to 3 months, and probably track another either EP, depending on how many songs we have at the end of the day, or whatever we have material wise. And then we've got some shows. Yeah, we've got some shows lined up. We've got some local stuff here in Virginia, and some regional stuff that we're doing. We're just kind of like filling out the calendar now. We took off January and February, which we're just about to get into, to kind of like work on writing, and work on trying to get some songs prepped up to go into the studio. And then March, we're doing a string of shows in March. And then I think we got some stuff in April, May, and now we're kind of like looking at June right now as far as additional dates, and then obviously the rest of the summer into the rest of the year. So, well, we'll be out playing some shows, and our game plan is to, when the album is finally out, we will have new material locked and ready to go. After we release the last single from the last album, we'll have new material to roll out, subsequently right after that happens. So we've kind of got ourselves on a cycle where, we record, we start releasing stuff, and we're playing shows, and then we're constantly writing, and then we get back into the studio and record before we're done releasing, and then able to kind of perpetuate the cycle and always be putting out new material in some fashion. So
nice. Yeah, that's a really good schedule to be on. We kind of do the similar thing. We take off January, February every year to go in the studio and write and everything. And and then, same thing, because March, it's kind of a lot, there's not a whole lot of tours that go on in the beginning of the year anyway, but then March is kind of the beginning of like festival season, and at least here in Austin, Texas, where I'm based out of, we have South by Southwest, and then it's just kind of after that, it's just everything all over the country starts, tours and festivals and everything. So we try and hunker down and do all the things we can here with the band in January and February, so that way the rest of the year, you're, like you said, you got the material to release, and you have all your ducks in a row, and you're not having to take time out during the busiest season to write music because you ran out.
We're always constantly kicking around ideas, but it's kind of like we've gotten in a situation where we're trying to, focus some time on getting some material down, and we've got a couple completed, and we're working on a couple more skeletons that we have. So it's just, you don't want to get yourself in a situation where it's like, okay, we have to, we got to do this. We got to write these songs. Here comes, we're on schedule here. You want it to be organic, and, you want to spend the time. So thankfully we're not on a schedule where a label is demanding a new album for us, within a certain time frame. I think, obviously situations being different, if we were on that type of label, we probably would not be working day jobs, or hopefully, or, maybe it would, depending on the situation. But yeah, it's fun to get in and kick new ideas around. And since we brought in our new bass player, we've got a lot of new kind of creative juices flowing internally, which is great. So we're hopefully, on schedule to get back in the studio here sooner than later, and track some of the new stuff, because it's awesome. Some of the new stuff that we've been writing is really killer, and it's a lot. It's definitely heavy, and we've got some prettiness to some of it, and we're kind of just pushing the boundaries of where we've been musically so far and where we want to go. So all exciting, good stuff, and we're all stoked on kind of where we're at right now. So
nice. Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. I know Like, I love your stuff, how you guys kind of blend a lot of like the heavy, and then you'll throw in like a little bit of the melodic there to kind of change things up a little bit. So yeah, I like it a lot, and I can't wait to hear the rest of your singles. Although I've heard like a couple, but I can't wait to hear the rest when you drop them. And you, everybody who's watching, you can hear the new Mutiny on Rock Rage Radio. I play them during the morning walk of shame, and they will be the featured artist this week on Thursday. So make sure you tune in to rockrageradio.com and listen to the morning walk of shame with Kraevin. I go live every morning at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I play a lot of amazing unsigned artists like the New Mutiny. And, I mix in a little bit of, signed artists as well. But the focus of my show is unsigned artists. So
That's awesome. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I love it. It's like everybody asks, they're like, oh, so what do you do? And like, my job is literally to listen to music all day. That's all I do. And sometimes, not everybody who sends in music is, we all try. We're all at different levels. I'll just put it that way. But I just love, love, love being able to spend a good amount of my day. I spend at least 3 or 4 hours every day listening to new artists. And it's so fun because, what I usually do is when I get like new submissions, I'll put them in like this playlist on my computer. And then, I'll be doing other things. Like I'll be putting together like social media posts, or I'll be doing stuff for my band, or, I'll be doing a lot of different things, and I'll just be listening to this music. And then like I have a system. It's like, okay, these we can play, these, don't make the cut for the show or whatever. And I kind of go through my thing, and every now and then, it's like you're working, you're listening, oh yeah, this song's good. And then you're like, oh my God, what is this? And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And I love those moments when it's like, okay, this band is good, because you're listening to music, and after a while, your ears kind of get to the point where it's like you're doing things subconsciously, but you're not really paying attention to what you're listening to. And then, you'll get like this rare gem of this, song. And then I'm like, who is this? And then I'm looking at my playlist, like, what's the name of this band? Like, okay, put a million stars and flags and whatever. Like, I've got to get them in for an interview, or, something, because I'm like, I love this song. And I got to say, the New Mutiny was definitely one of those. When I was reviewing music for my show, it was one of those days where I was just like listening to a bunch of stuff. And what I do too is like, I don't know, I like my shows to kind of flow a certain way. So usually before I, do the show in the mornings, I will listen to the playlist like I've set up for the following day or whatever. I'll be like, okay, this is what I want to play on Monday. And I kind of listen to it before it actually airs, before we air it. So I'm like, because maybe people don't care, and maybe it's nice, but it's like, I don't want to sit there and play like, this crazy, like hard hitting wage war song, and then la, 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 like a more melodic, like, what happened, cause an accident on the freeway in the morning during somebody's commute.
There's got to be,
or vice versa. You have something like kind of chill, and you're like, okay, this is a groovy rock beat, and then it's like right after, and you're like, whoa, what just happened? We totally changed gears. And so I kind of like to listen to the music I'm going to be playing in the show, and I'll put together like the playlist, and I may listen to it and whatever, and then I'll be like, oh my God, this is great. So yeah. So you definitely have a fan. And of me, I love the music, I love your band. And now that we are kind of reaching like I'm going to segue into what makes late nights with Kraevin, because we are late nights. This is not suitable for work or children or wives, or, well, please, wives, tune in, because this can be really fun. I'm going to ask you some questions, and we're going to get down and dirty. And if your wife or girlfriend or mom is watching, we're sorry, we love you. And please feel free to chime in and comment with all the juicy details, because sometimes they have better stories than we do. And if you're worried, my mom usually watches this, as do my kids. Hi, kids, if you're on. My teenagers watch all my stuff usually at some
Oh,
point.
that's cool.
So, first question is, do you like anal?
Do I like anal?
Anal.
Not. I mean, to be honest, I mean, not really a big fan. It's not really something that I go for. I mean, I don't know.
You are like one of the first guys to ever admit that. Most guys, it's like anal. Can I do anal? Can we, please?
Yeah,
And I'm like,
I don't know. I don't see the big. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting first question for sure. Yeah, it's not something that like it's not something that I go for right out of the gate as far as like, hey, this is something I'm striving to accomplish. Um, if if a woman if a woman is into that and they bring it up, I mean, I'm open to it, but it's not something that I'm constantly trying to facilitate, I guess you'd say.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it tends to not go over very well with me because, like, if guys will be like, "Hey, I love anal," it's like, "I do too." So, are you receiving first or am I?
Right. Right.
And then they're like, "Wait,
Oh yeah.
no, no." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now that we're on the same page,
Yeah.
moving on." Yeah. So it's like guys are like, "No, wait, no, you're supposed to take it. Why am I?
Yeah.
We both have that, right? Fair is fair."
The two-way street, right?
Fair is fair. And it's funny because, guys always tend to brag about their size, the
Right.
size
Right.
of their penis. Oh, I've got the biggest. And oh, baby, I'm going to satisfy you in all these different ways because I am so big. But then when you're like, no, that's not going in there, they're like, oh, honey, it's not that big.
Right. Yeah. And
But, but, but you just said, just say. It's funny. It's always the biggest, unless you want anal, and then it's not that big.
right.
Yeah, yeah. So, how old were you the first time you had sex?
How old was I the first time I had sex? Wow, this really went off the music. I lost my virginity at I was in was it seventh grade? I think I was like 12 or 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
We are ahead of the game here. I
Yeah.
was a late bloomer compared to
Okay.
you. I was like 18, almost 19, I think.
Oh wow. It's that Christian uh that Puritanness out in Texas, right?
Yeah, well, I was raised very, very conservative, and honestly, just I witnessed some things
Mm,
when I was a kid between my parents, and I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know what sex was. I thought all babies what came from like an immaculate conception because the only birth story I ever heard was the angel appearing to Mary and saying you're pregnant, right? So I'm like, okay, so that's how that happens. And then I was born via emergency cesarean. So I just thought, okay, an angel appears to you, says you're going to have a child, and then the doctor comes and slices and dices, and there's the kid, right?
mm,
That was my logic.
mm.
And I did not have any like dirty friends who corrupted me at that age. That wasn't until later when I went to public school.
Uh,
Yeah. So my mom sits me down and I'm almost 13 and she's just like, yeah, I should probably tell her some things or else she's going to go into the bathroom one day and think she's dying and hemorrhaging and whatever. And so I should probably explain. And during the course of that explanation, all these mental images of things that I saw when I was 4 years old kind of like crashed into mine. And I realized what my parents were doing that I had witnessed and it literally repulsed me.
wow.
And I was just like, yeah, no penis is going anywhere near me. Like, that is disgusting. Like, dudes pee out of that. Why the fuck would I want that inside my body? Like, I mean, if you think about it from like a very logical sense, right? It's kind of repulsive. It's like some dude sticking his finger up your nose, right? I mean, it's not, no, I don't want that. So it took me a little while to get over the cringe.
Mm,
And then I also played a lot of sport. I didn't play like a lot of sports, but I played some sports. And then I helped with the videotaping for the coaches at my high school.
Hmm.
So like boys are gross.
Right.
You know, when you're sitting in a bus with them and they haven't showered and after a game and they're like burping and farting because you're the only girl in there and they forget.
Right.
No.
Or they're
Mm-mm.
trying to impress you with their burping farting abilities.
Yeah, yeah. Or they think that's somehow supposed to impress me, and I'm just like, no. And I don't know whose idea it was to pull an entire football team over and get Mexican food. No, that was like the worst bus ride ever. Like windows down and all of that. And so it's like, yeah, no, I wasn't really until I got to college. And then I'm like, okay, boys are, you know, starting to become men and they're actually kind of hot. And then
Right.
then you forget. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
And honestly, the only like one of the main reasons why I lost my virginity when I did is because I was in a Christian university and I kind of was like, how many of the rules in the honor code can I
Right.
break and
Hmm.
get away with? Because,
That's like the number one rule, right? Like you're not supposed to have sex until you're married, or
you're not supposed to have sex till you're married, curfew's 11. So I was like, how can I sneak in after curfew and not get caught? How can I sneak out after curfew and not get caught? Sex, dancing, I would sneak out and go dancing. Like, yeah, it was just like kind of, let's see how many of these.
I mean, all that stuff's banned, but it's okay to rape little boys, like rape little
Yeah.
kids.
Well, I sure hope none of that happened. I wasn't Catholic, but
Uh,
hopefully none of that happened at my
oh,
university. But yeah, so yeah, that was like my kind of whole take on it. It was like just boys gross. And I didn't gross me out. Like I thought guys were hot in high school. I just thought it was kind of a waste of time
mhm.
to date some. I don't know. I've always been too smart for my own good. I was in this small town when I went to high school. My mom moved me from this side of the world to Arizona when my parents split. And I ended up in this shitty little town. Sorry, guys, love you if you're watching. Shitty little town in the middle of the desert in Arizona. And there's nothing to do there but drink and party and have sex. So you had like 11-year-olds pregnant.
Well, yeah, it's a little young.
And
Uh,
I'm like, I'm escaping this shithole. When I graduate high school, I am getting out of this crazy place. I don't want some dude that I'm dating to have some kind of influence over me and my life choices.
right,
So I'm like, I'm not planning on marrying anybody here. I don't want to stay here. So why date anyone or fuck anybody here? That was kind of my whole thing.
right.
So yeah, that's how I got through high school. And I went to I went to junior prom with one of my best guy friends, and then senior prom I went with my two best girlfriends and my two best guy friends. Like all five of us just kind of went together and had a fun time. So my senior prom photo is me by myself, and then I have another one with me and my two best girlfriends. And because another thing too is like I don't want to like get older and have some husband and be like, oh yeah, there's some random dude in my prom photo.
Mm. I
Yeah.
did my senior prom. I got arrested at my junior prom. I didn't get arrested at prom. I got arrested after prom, and I never got arrested. Um, but I was at a party and the cops showed up, and there was like I don't know, 30 of us that ran into the woods, and I spent the night in the woods on yeah, and me and a friend of mine doubled back, and like we climbed into this kid like the neighbor's treehouse and watched the cops like or try to arrest everybody. They came into this house, and I was driving my dad's Jeep. He was nice enough to let me. It was the last time he let me borrow a car. But I was driving his Jeep, and I had beer in the back, and the cops knew that I was there, but they didn't. I was in the woods and I wasn't coming out, so they called him, and he came up and had to pick up his vehicle at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. So he was not happy, and they never they never ended up catching. They didn't catch me that night. I was in the woods uh, on psychedelics in the woods, running from the cops. And yeah, finally walked. I walked back home in my tux. I didn't walk home from there. I ended up, my girlfriend at the time um, came back and gave me a ride. And I remember I walked into my dad's house at like, I don't know, it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, in my tux covered in mud, the whole. And yeah, I had to call the cops, and they were like, they started. I was, they started like, well, where'd you get the beer? I'm like, what beer? And they're like, the beer that was in your dad's vehicle. I was like, I didn't put any beer. My dad's like, you better, fucking all this shit, and like, so it ended up, yeah, that was my junior prom, and then when senior prom came around, I was like, I don't care about this. Me and my girlfriend at the time like went out and we went camping, I think, or went out to dinner or something. So yeah, that was my prom experiences. Yeah.
Oh God, I love it. It's like
It,
high school, you just hope to survive it, and then the rest of your life you're trying to forget it.
the best of times, right?
Yeah, something like that. Like I remember I was actually a valedictorian of my high school, and I remember at one point in my speech I'm like, yeah, if this is the best, let's like, I think my speech was something like, yeah, don't make this the best your life ever gets. Let's not do that.
Right.
No, let's not, because wow, we are so young and dumb back then. It's funny, like I have teenagers, and my middle child is graduating high school this year. And it's funny, when my daughter was going through high school, she graduated a year ago. And it's funny, like the angst and the drama and the things that you think is just, oh, my life is over
Right. That doesn't matter.
when you're that age. And you're just like, no, I wish this was as bad as it gets. And I remember one time she was just like, I don't want to go to high school sucks. I'm like, it's supposed to suck, honey. It's high school, it's fine, you'll live, trust me.
Wait till you get to college is a lot more fun. Wait till you have to
Yeah.
Yeah, wait till you have to get a job and work every day. That's even
Yeah.
fun.
I'm like, enjoy it. At least right now you don't have bills.
Yeah.
You don't have responsibilities really, other than your grades. And if you fail out, there's summer school and there's tutoring. I mean, they hold your hand so much to get you to pass.
Right.
It's like, just, they don't do that in real life. They don't. It's like, you can be the top performer in your company and your boss can walk in tomorrow and be like, by the way, bye, you're fired. Like, no reason, just, oh, we're restructuring, or oh, we're doing away with your position, or whatever reason. They get a wild hair up their ass. They're just like, yeah, you can do everything right, and we're still gonna
Right.
lay you off or fire you or downsize or outsource or whatever it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
like at least,
Or there's a recession coming and we're gonna
yeah.
prepare.
It's like, at least in high school it makes sense. Pass or fail, easy.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, like, math doesn't lie. If you get the answer right, you get the answer right, and you still pass. There's no, oh, they're not going to lay you off and hold you back when you did everything you were supposed to. So it's fine.
Right.
That's why I love music. It makes sense. Makes sense. The world does not make sense, but everything makes sense in our own mind when we're playing music.
Right. On its
So, other than that whole escapade of your parents dealing with your thing, have you ever gotten caught, like you got caught with that situation? Have you ever gotten caught like having sex with a girlfriend, or you had your parents walk in on you having a threesome or anything crazy?
Never had my parents walk in on me having a threesome. I had my parents walk in on me having sex. I'm trying to think. I don't think so. I had not the act, not like straight straight in the act of actually, having sex at that moment. Maybe had just done, you know what I mean? Like had just maybe finished or something like that. But yeah, no, I've never. Yeah, I don't have I'm trying to think now. I don't think so. I don't think that's ever happened to me. Maybe it has. Actually, I had my buddy's mom walk in on me, but not, yeah, but not my parents. Yeah, I had my
Your
yeah,
friend's mom?
my friend's mom. We were in high school, and she walked in, and she was like I don't know. She was like a classic piano. I mean, she was really good at piano. She like played piano in church and stuff. And we used to party at his house a lot. And I don't know what happened, but it was like early in the morning, and she came down. She woke up and came down, and I don't know. She's making coffee or something, but she ended up kind of walking in, and like we kind of just like laid still, like didn't like act like we were sleeping, I feel like. And she proceeded to then like serenade us playing the piano, like during like while I guess we finished. I don't know. But yeah, I think
That's a cool mom.
yeah, absolutely. It was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching Star Wars once with my youngest son. My parents never caught me doing anything, but I never did anything in my house. But I was watching Star Wars with my youngest son, and my oldest son's bedroom was literally on the other side of the living room wall. And I guess he thought he was being quiet. He had snuck his girlfriend over, and they were having sex. I could hear everything. Like, you're teenagers, you are never as quiet as you think you are.
Right.
No. And so I go and I knock on his door, and I'm like, hey. And he's like, what? And I'm like, and I hear them like rustling the covers, and oh fuck, oh shit, And I'm like, you watching porn? And he's like, yeah, is it too loud? I'm like, uh-huh. If I can hear it over Star Wars, honey, you are doing it wrong.
Okay.
And so he's like, he's laughing, and he's like, okay, I'll turn it off. And I wait. I stand on the other side of the door and I wait. Because, okay, what teenager admits to his mom he's watching porn?
Yeah, that's a strange one. Yeah.
One who is trying to get you to go away because he's doing something worse. That's
Yeah.
how. That's, if you want to know how you got caught, I have common sense, honey. And so he's standing there, and they wait until they think I left, and then they start up again, and then I wait until it's like starting to sound good, and then I'm like bang 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 on the door, like really loud, and he's like fuck, and I'm like, do you know whose truck's parked outside, like between our house and the neighbors? He's like, probably the neighbors. No, that's not their truck. Try again.
Hmm.
By the way, you should tell the girl you got in the room she needs to go home now. And he starts laughing, right? My teenager. And he opens the door. He's like, how did you know? I'm like, when have you ever watched porn that loud where I could hear it, first of all? And second of all, when would you ever admit to me that you were watching porn? And thirdly, tell her to park her truck around the block and like hop a fence or something.
Yeah.
Like, Christ.
Smart about it, right?
It's like I come home from band practice. There's a vehicle parked in front of my house. I wonder if Tyler snuck his girlfriend over. So yeah, I have fun. Fucking with him, and then he's standing there. And then another time, it's like as if he thinks he gets, he's, oh, I learned, right? I'm gonna do this again, and I'm not gonna get caught again. He got caught again, and then I'm sitting there, and I'm like, he did the whole try to pull his pants on really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Answers the door, and his flies down.
Mm. So that's a key indicator.
Yeah, I'm like, by the way, like I always act like I buy the shenanigans, and then like when I'm turning to leave, I'm like, by the way, your fly's down. Hi, Ariel. And then she's like, hi, Mom. Yeah. And he's like, I know, don't ask for shit for like ever. No, don't ask for anything ever, like ever. No. Teenage boys are fun. My stepmom walked in on my brother having a threesome. That was an exciting.
Mm.
exciting time. I was not in the house at the time. He's younger than me, my brother is, and yeah, it was like she did the whole, "Okay, yeah, your father's handling this," and I'm like, "Really? Dad's gonna high five him. Why would you let dad handle this?" Dad's gonna give him a high five. Like, why would you be like, "Oh yeah, your father's handling this"? Like, you're the one that's scarred for life. You walked in on your son in bed with two women. Burn my eyes out. Some things you can't say. Huh?
I said it's definitely a high five from the dad for sure.
Yeah. I'm like, Dad's not gonna do shit. Dad's gonna be like, cool. All right, cool. All right, cool. Nice talk. Bye. See ya. Love my dad. So, speaking of parents, have you ever walked in on your parents? Or
Mm,
at least overheard them?
I've overheard them for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Never like, I think caught them in the act, but I've definitely overheard for sure. Yeah.
So, um, what is your most embarrassing moment on stage?
Hmm. Most embarrassing moment on stage. Embarrassing for me or embarrassing for the band?
Either or, like your best, most embarrassing stage moment.
Trying to think. Um, Trying to think most embarrassing moment. In this band or any band
Yeah.
I've been. Um, hmm, Most embarrassing moment. I played some embarrassing shows. Embarrassing moment. What was it? You have those shows. I think sometimes where maybe you have you get a little bit too light on the drinks beforehand, and musically you don't feel like you're as tight as you should be. Definitely been there. Um, I played a show once. We were in a battle of the bands. The bass player had my bass. It was a bass that was mine that he was using, and he had his other bass, and he had my bass on a stand back by his amp, and he went to try to do the bitch toss, and he literally just threw his bass into my bass that was on a stand, and basically cut it right in half. Uh, yeah, but at least he did it at the end, like at the end of the set. So like that was not as bad, but it was pretty embarrassing that like, hey man, you just destroyed my bass, and we lost the battle of the bands because you went. I mean, that's not why we lost, but that was pretty embarrassing when he kind of threw it and it just kind of went like he went one of these and it went behind him and like you expected it to come around on him, and it didn't. It just went right over his shoulder, right back into his bass rig, right into the bass that was on a stand, and literally, I mean, cut it in half. Yeah, that was interesting. Uh, Trying to think of other stupid. I mean, there's always kind of nuances to shows where, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong type of thing. Trying to think. Um, I've definitely had some stories from the road. I was when I graduated college, I was in a band that toured all over the country for about 3.5 years. And we had some interesting experiences on the road, interesting shows. Um, yeah, I mean, like embarrassing stuff. Like I've never, you do the stupid thing where, maybe you unplug yourself or, something like that. I think I've gotten away with not being too embarrassed. Um, I really kind of don't give a shit what people think. So, if it was embarrassing for somebody else, maybe. But yeah, those are just kind of some of the ones I can think of. I haven't had too many embarrassing stage moments where I've like fallen off stage or you see those videos online where, you know, somebody tries to do the bitch toss and they throw their guitar completely off the stage, or that one video where that drummer's drunk and he's like hanging from the rafters, he falls onto his kit, like, you know, stuff like that. I thankfully have not had any of that happen, but yeah, definitely had some interesting show moments for sure. Yeah, nothing super embarrassing.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Like I usually can play off almost anything
Right.
where I don't really embarrass easy. Like stuff happens. But yeah, I've heard a lot of stories from bands. Like, I had a drummer at a show once, he shit himself
On stage.
on stage.
Awesome.
I didn't know during, no, I don't think anybody knew during, but then he just ghosted after. And my bandmates were like terrified to tell me because I'm a big stickler for like band etiquette. I get like you have those, extenuating circumstances, but for the most part, any band that I'm in, I'm like, okay, we get there early, we stay late, we watch every single band. If we're the headliner, we watch all the openers. If we're the opener, we watch all the way through to the headliner. We are there for the entire night to support all the artists. And especially like in Austin and a lot of venues, they won't let you come back if, and some headliners won't let you open if you leave early, if you're not there the whole night and stuff like that. So that's how I am. And so we get off stage and I'm looking around and I'm like, where is he? I haven't seen him. Where's he at? And they're like, oh yeah, something came up and he had to leave early. And I'm like,
Did we lose her? Hey, it's just the Jeremy hour now, it seems. I'm Jeremy from the New Mutiny. You're watching Late Night with Kraevin.
I have no idea what just happened. But you held it down really well. Like my whole streaming just crashed, but at least we stayed live. But yeah, and I'm just like, where is he? Is he dying? Is he on fire? Like, why isn't he here? And they're like, I can tell when I'm being lied to, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just this human lie detector. And so all three of my bandmates are just standing there and they're like, well, his kid, and he had to get home. And I look over at my guitarist because my guitarist at the time, he had the worst stage fright, and I would have to give him at least 2 shots of tequila just to get him up on stage. Even 4 years in, playing the same freaking songs from 4 years ago, playing sold out shows, and you're sitting here nervous as fuck every time you get on stage. Blew my mind. Amazing guy, amazing guitarist, amazing writer. But yeah, it was hilarious. I always had to give him shots. So I sit there. Well, what he does is when he gets some alcohol in him and he gets a little tipsy, he gets the giggles and he's like, like a little kid. It's the cutest thing ever. He's like this giggly little toddler. So I'm sitting there and all my bandmates are like got their hands in their pockets. They're like, yeah, it's just, stuff came up. And I'm like, I look at my guitarist. I'm like, hey, laughing boy, where's your drummer? And he's like, he shit himself. And he starts laughing.
Wow.
He's like laughing so hard. And I'm like, he what? And then my other guitarist is like, he made us promise not to tell you, but yeah, he, I guess, had a moment on stage and shit himself, so he needed to go home. And I'm like, why didn't you just say that? And they're like, well, because he didn't want you to know. I'm like, he would rather experience the wrath of Kraevin because you bailed on a show earlier for a shitty excuse and then made your bandmates lie to me? Really?
But literally was a shitty excuse. So
it was really a shitty excuse.
Really, yeah. I've puked on stage. I've been in bands where we puked on stage before from the night before being on tour in New Orleans, but never seen anybody shit themselves on stage. So, but
yeah,
Who
You should
knows?
go watch the Defiant interview. Apparently, the lead singer shit himself once on stage too, and it was so funny. He's telling the story of like his most embarrassing stage moment, and his guitarist Joe Defiant is sitting there on the interview with us. He's like, yeah, and nobody knew, and I just like went to the bathroom after and threw my underwear away, and this guitarist is sitting there like, till now, bro, what the
No, as you should. Yeah, if you, I mean, you never know. Get sick and who knows, maybe you get the shits, you had some bad food the night before or whatever.
No judgment here. We're just here to share everything.
Right.
Everyone wants to know, what's it like being a rock star? This is what it's like. We are normal people with normal experiences, and sometimes we get to live them in front of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit happens, right?
Shit happens.
It
It
happens.
really does. It really does. What is your favorite, like you said, you've toured before with like other bands and stuff, like I'd say your favorite or like craziest tour moment?
Hmm. The band I was in, we did a Warp Tour for, I think it was like a little under a month. That was pretty cool. We got I got to see a lot of the bands that I grew up listening to, and kind of interact with them, and see bands that now are considered now, or like bands that were up and coming that are now like super huge. That was really cool. um we got to play we get to play some cool shows with some cool bands, that we didn't realize at the time were going to be who they were or who they became, and got to learn, or meet bands that we became friends with, and I definitely had some good experiences doing that. I got to play a show with Mastodon, Killswitch, and Slayer in New York City, at the Roseland before they tore it down, or before they closed it. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, there was some interesting times. Partied with Greg Giraldo, rest in peace, in New Orleans. That's why we threw up on stage.
At least it was worth it. At
And
least it was worth it.
yeah, yeah. It was funny. We were playing a show in New Orleans. It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and we showed up early, just because we had we had nowhere to be. We were on tour, and we were on tour with our buddies in a band called Rubicon out of Boston. They're still a band, and we got to the venue early, and we were like, hey, we're just going to take a look around, go to the venue, and meet the bar manager and the people that were running it. And they're like, oh yeah, you guys got a room upstairs, you can stay, or shower up, whatever. Go upstairs, the fridge is full of beer. They're like, yeah, free drinks, all you want, whatever. And I was like, so what time's show time? And they're like, first band goes on about midnight. And like, we all looked at each other and we're like, okay, so we're going to draw straws to see what band has to close this. Cause none of us were like, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. We're, obviously going to start kicking some back. We got to maintain till midnight to go on at midnight. That's the first band. Second band's going on about 1, in New Orleans. So we drew the last straw. We drew shortest straw, so we had to close. And I remember we were playing, and there was a crowd. It was interesting. It was a random off night, and the bar that we played wasn't on Bourbon. It was like just like maybe a block back, and we were sitting there, and this guy walks in, and I'm like, I'm playing, and I'm looking at him. He's like watching our set, like into it, and we get off stage, and I go up to him at the bar, and I'm like, I know you from somewhere. And he goes, do you believe in Jesus? And I was like, no, I know you from somewhere. I've seen you before. I've seen you on TV. And I was like, you're on Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn, aren't you? And he's like, you got me. And I was like, fucking Greg Giraldo. And we ended up hanging out with him all night. Went to the casino. I mean, we partied with him all night. And he got on our bus. And, he's the only guy we let ever take a shit on our bus. because of the no number two policy, but we let him.
Yeah.
And I remember he called Lewis Black when we were on the phone. He told us all this dirt about all these comedians, and he called Lewis Black on the phone, and we were, talking with him, and like all these, these comedians are like legendary guys now. And, unfortunately Greg, succumbed to his demons and passed away, but he was a super cool guy. And shortly after that, he had a radio interview the night. He was in town to do like 10 minutes at some convention, and he had a radio show the next day, and he was on the radio show like talking about us. And shortly after that, like him, I forget who else, they all got like a tour bus and they filmed it, and they went out and did like a tour. And he was like, we were in our RV, and he's like, this would be so cool if like our, these guys got together. I got some comedians together, and like we went out and filmed it like we're rock stars like you guys. And we're like, well, we're really not rock stars, but like, whatever. And that was a pretty cool experience, get to hang out with him and like hear all this dirt about Seinfeld and like all this shit. And like, he was a pretty cool, down to earth guy. And it's a shame that he's, no longer with us, but that was kind of a cool moment on, being on tour running and I asked him, I said, why did you come into this random bar? He was like, I was walking down the street and I heard you guys playing. And he's like, it sounded good. So I walked in. I'm like, of all the bars in all the towns, you walked in the one that we're in. So
I know, right? And that's such a compliment too to your music that it just turned his head, and he's like, I gotta go in there and see them. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool experience.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Well, we're going to start wrapping this up here. Before we go, I just want to ask, is there any advice that you would like to give any aspiring musicians or artists out there who are considering making this their career or their, dream?
Ooh, making it a career. I think you got to have, expectations that are based in reality. I think, as far as art goes and creating music, and, don't ever stop doing that. Like if you're passionate about that and that's something that you enjoy, like, don't ever let people tell you that you're not good enough, or don't ever let people's opinions on what your art is to you. Don't let people's opinions on your art change how you feel about it when you create it, or what you're going for as you're creating it. And if you're going to be a musician for a living, there's some reality checks that obviously I think you need to have before you kind of get into it. It's not the 1980s, I feel like, and it's not sex, drugs, and rock and roll like it might have been in the early days. It's a tough road. It's tough. I'm not a professional musician by any means. I lived that DIY lifestyle for a while on the road. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. But, if you are passionate about creating music and passionate about creating art, like don't stop creating, keep doing do what makes you happy, and do, what you feel is right, and however you want to express yourself. And if people like that and it resonates to them, awesome. And if it doesn't, fuck them. At the end of the day, it's something that's personal to you. And if you enjoy what you do, that's where it starts. If you're trying to write things for the mass, if you're trying to create stuff for the mass, then you obviously got to take a different spiel, different approach maybe. But no, just get out there and play as many shows as you can. Like you said, show up early, watch all the bands, make all the friends you can, enjoy the moment, enjoy the time that you're here. And, you never know when you're not going to be. And at the end of the day, I mean, if music brings you joy, and it's something that can create lifelong friendships with people from all over the world, it's something cool that you can explore, and it can take you a lot of places and do a lot of great things for you. But just keep playing, and keep writing, and keep gigging, and keep supporting your local, your people in your local scene. That's where it starts, is at the local scene level. Support your local scene, support your friends that are in bands, Go out and buy tickets for your friends that are on national tours, that are maybe opening up for the local spot. Buy your tickets from them. Don't buy them from Ticketmaster. Go buy a shirt from one of your friends' bands. Go buy their CD. Retweet, reshare their shit on Facebook or on social media. That type of stuff. Helping them out any way you can is the best thing you can do. And yeah, I mean, if you got a dream, chase it. But you got to go, if you are going to chase it, you got to commit 100% fully into it and go after it. So, doing the weekend warrior thing, kind of like we do, is, it's cool when we're older guys. Some of us have families and wives and kids. So, for us to get in a tour bus and leave for 3 months is kind of tough. Especially with no backing and doing it ourselves. But when you're young, get out there and see, play, book shows out of state and travel and see the country and meet new people and do all that fun stuff while you can, because it might get to a situation where you can't do it, and you're going to wish that you would have. So, take it all in while you can, and put it all out while you can as best you can. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Great advice. And yes, to all of our viewers who love music, who aren't musicians and want to know how to support artists, that's also great advice for them too. You don't realize how much just sharing a post, liking a post, buying a ticket, my mom won't even take free tickets or let me guest list her for our shows, because she knows how important it is for the venues to know how many people we actually bring every time we play there. And so she always buys tickets to support the band. And the same thing with shirts. Anytime I go to a show and I want to support my friends, I buy a shirt.
Yeah.
My entire wardrobe is either stuff that I wear at my shows or shirts from bands that I've played with or that I support.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the biggest way, because, especially in today's society, we don't make money off our music anymore. We don't make money off our music videos unless we've got a million YouTube streams and we're getting, ad revenue. We are, the only way we make money is off of our merchandise.
Yeah.
So buy the shirts, buy the things at the table, at the shows. That goes directly to support the bands. And of course, sharing and caring is free. Like and share and tell everybody about the new Mutiny. What are your social media links, so that way all of our people who haven't heard of you know where to find you?
Facebook, I think we're just the New Mutiny. Instagram as well, the New Mutiny. I think Twitter, we're the New Mutiny VB. YouTube, we're the New Mutiny VA. If you type in the New Mutiny, we'll come up. We're the only band that has that name, to my knowledge. I think there might have been some synth pop band in the late 80s or 90s that maybe had it, but I don't know. I think if you go to our Facebook has our all of our links to any kind of our socials, but yeah, if you just type in the New Mutiny, we'll normally pop up.
Awesome. So yes, go like, subscribe, follow, go check out their new single on Spotify. They'll be dropping some new music. And then if you are in the Virginia area, make sure you go see them at a show when they're playing, and then make sure you follow, of course, all their social media. And do you have a website as well, or is it just all social media?
No, we don't have a website.
Okay.
No.
So then make sure you follow their Facebook and their Insta so you know when they're playing near you, and go support all of the amazing music that they make. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for joining and for sharing your music with us. And everybody, thank you for watching Late Nights with Kraevin. Make sure you tune in to the Morning Walk of Shame. We'll be starting tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time and 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, every morning, all unsigned bands, with a few majors, but mostly all unsigned indie artists and bands. If you would like to be featured for an interview or you would like to submit your music, make sure you email Kraevin Rock Rage Radio at gmail.com and submit your music, and we will review you to see if you can make it on one of our Rock Rage Radio shows. So that's Kraevin Rock Rage Radio at gmail.com. Submit your music, And thank you guys. Thank you again, Jeremy. You have a good night. Keep rocking.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you next Sunday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Bye, everybody.